stand for the pledge, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to call this meeting of the Town of Plattsburgh Town Board to order. Roll call, please.
Bernie Bassett.
Here.
Thomas Wood.
Here.
Michael Cashman.
Here.
Mike LaFave.
Here.
James Coffey.
Here.
And Rick Collins.
Resolution 105, approving the minutes of the previous meeting.
Resolved that the minutes of April 20th, 2015 be approved and the reading of the minutes be dispensed.
Have a motion.
So moved.
Mr. Cashman, second. Ms. LaFave, any discussion? Roll call.
Thomas Wood.
Yes.
Michael Cashman.
Yes.
Mike LaFave.
Yes.
Bernie Bassett.
Yes, the resolution carries. Resolution 106, abstract 15-5A.
Resolved that the audit of claims number 5A-15, 652 to 731 for $138,486.39, and abstract 5A-15, 140 to 159 prepays in the amount of $384,341.29 be received as reviewed by the audit committee, and the supervisors hereby authorized to pay said abstract.
Have a motion.
So moved.
Mr. Cashman, second.
Second.
Mr. Wood, any discussion? Roll call.
Thomas Wood.
Yes.
Michael Cashman.
Yes.
Meg LaFave.
Yes.
Bernie Bassett.
Yes, resolution carries. Resolution 107, tennis court resurfacing and repainting for South Plattsburgh Recreation Park.
Whereas the Park and Recreation Department, in cooperation with the Building and Grounds Department, is responsible for the maintenance of 8 sets of tennis courts in the town of Plattsburgh. Whereas to maintain the value and use of said courts, the department must maintain the tennis courts on a maintenance schedule. And whereas Mr. Fyatt has obtained the formal written quotes for the purchase of tennis court resurfacing and painting that were received and reviewed by Mr. Fyatt. Now therefore be resolved, the town board does hereby authorize the resurfacing, cleaning, and repainting of the tennis court by Vermont Recreational Service and Fencing Incorporated, Vermont, in the state of Vermont, 05821, in the amount of $6,800. And it be further resolved, the supervisor be hereby authorized to sign all related documents relative to the resurfacing and repainting of South Plattsburgh Park to be made payable from the field maintenance account. And it be further resolved that a copy of this resolution be forwarded to the finance manager, Mr. Fayette, Youth Service Recreation Director, and Building and Grounds Superintendent, Mark Rowe.
Have a motion.
So moved.
Mr. Cashman, second.
Second.
Mr. Wood, discussion. Ricky, you filled in quite accurately on the first resolve, but I want to make sure we amend this, as we always do, to include the address of this particular company, which is P.O. Box 147, Barnett, Vermont. That was omitted. I didn't see it before, and so we'll include the address in the first resolved. Mike and Tom, you concur with that?
No objection.
Any other discussion? Roll call.
Thomas Wood.
Yes.
Michael Cashman.
Yes.
Meg LaFave.
Yes.
Bernie Bassett.
Yes, resolution carries. Just because of the way these things have a life once we're done with that, it's important to have the address in there. Resolution 108, junkyard license renewal for 28 Flanagan Drive.
Whereas the town clerk has received an application and fees for a license to operate a junkyard business of Ricky Lyman, 28 Flanagan Drive, parcel number 221.9-1-21. And whereas Steve Imhoff, Code Enforcement Officer, has completed inspection of said junkyard, and the applicant is not in compliance. Now therefore be resolved that the town board does hereby receive and file said applicant and authorize the town clerk to issue a junkyard license for the aforementioned applicant in compliance with this letter by Steve Imhoff, Code Enforcement Officer of the town of Plattsburgh. And it be further resolved, a copy of this resolution be given to the finance manager, town clerk, and codes department.
Have a motion. Ms. LaFave, do I have a second?
It's not correct.
That's okay, let's get this in discussion. Is that a second, Tom?
All right, second, but
Okay.
we gotta change it.
Now, discussion.
It's not the applicant in compliance with the letter issued by Steve Bump, that would not be in compliance. So I think that should be taken out. It just should be to issue a junkyard license. Because,
You're right, it's not in compliance with the letter.
so in fact, it should be, just leave that whole section out and issue a junkyard license. So skip the whole last section.
Yeah, let me be sure I've got that, I think I totally agree, because the request is for the license, which we must act on. So in the first resolve then, would you suggest, Tom, it should read that the town of Plattsburgh Town Board does hereby receive and place on file said application and authorize the town clerk to issue a junkyard license to the
Period.
aforementioned applicant, period.
Period,
And
yeah.
then we can vote yes or no to do that,
Yeah.
based on the recommendation itself.
And I would, in the second whereas, or in the second line, it says the applicant is not in compliance.
It does read that in mine.
No, it doesn't
Oh,
say
it
in.
says is in compliance in mine.
Mine says is not
Non-compliance.
compliant.
That was the newest one.
Yeah, I have not, is not.
There's a not and there's an in.
There
Should
should
say
be
is not in compliance.
Okay, is not in compliance is what it should read in the second whereas.
Right.
Where we currently have more than one version out there for some reason. Let me read that in its entirety again. The second whereas, Steve Imoff, Code Enforcement Officer, has completed an inspection of junkyard and the applicant is not in compliance. And then the first resolve as amended.
Yes.
Okay. Meg, do you concur with that? Any other discussion on the resolution? As amended then, roll call vote?
Well, I have a few comments.
Okay.
First, I went over to look at it, there's no fence that I can see. There's cars all over the lawn and into the next area. I'm not sure if that's just car sales or not. It says it's auto repair and sales, but there are many cars there without a license plate, and is some other junk that's in the area, and there's no, it seems like it's spread all over and there's no fence at all. So I don't think we can, I can't support this particular one.
Any other discussion? Roll call. Oh,
Can I
sorry.
have a question? What's the typical protocol for this?
The typical would be that the codes enforcement officer on behalf of the town would make a recommendation, as Mr. Amoff has, and he did a good job in his letter, I thought, to cite the code that is the issue with the field set. And then, you know, we can take a look ourselves. Obviously, we may have a different interpretation. I'll echo what Tom's saying, my support is with our code officer, that indeed there is work that needs to be done before this license is issued. And, you know, I would be inclined to also vote against this for those reasons.
In
There have
the
been,
letter,
it's a
in
good
the,
question, Nick. There have been times where we factor into the request the need, the location, whether or not there is natural vegetation that helps create a barrier. The whole goal is to have a barrier. The level of activity sometimes that neighboring properties are currently used for, with the idea that these are annual renewable licenses. So if something were to change in the neighborhood that makes the particular interpretation of how to comply no longer appropriate, then we can vote it down in the future. So sometimes there's been, you know, some flexibility, I guess.
and in his letter, he says the junkyard should be completely surrounded with a fence, at least 8 feet in height, with substantially screens with a suitable gate, which shall be closed and locked except during the working hours of such junkyard. I did not see any of that here. And all motor vehicles and parts should be stored within that enclosure, and is not the case.
Now, the violations appear to be excessive and need to be mitigated.
And the pictures that he has indicate the same thing.
Any other discussion? Roll call.
Thomas Wood,
No,
Michael Cash,
No.
Wagner,
No.
no. Meg LaFave,
No.
Bernie Bassett.
No, the resolution does not carry, and we will convey that message as well.
Mr. Bassett, could I ask, when, under resolved, you took out the part after applicant?
Correct.
All of it, correct? Thank you.
You're welcome. Resolution 109, junkyard license renewal for 55 Hammond Lane. And maybe prior to reading this one, I should maybe said something before. Sometimes we get our agenda out, and between the time when that happens and we actually get to this table, more information surfaces. One of the things that we discovered with this year's round of applications, and with new technology, using Thinktometry, something that's relatively new to us, we discovered that it's critical the applicant have the property lot number in the application. And that does a lot of things for us. With the flyover, once we know that, those boundaries are clearly measurable. And even though the aerial each year gets a year older, at least at that point of the flyover, it gives us information to know whether or not the material being stored in the junkyard has exceeded the boundaries of that lot, which can happen. I mean, you get back in the fields and the woods, and there aren't distinct lines and rows of painted trees, and suddenly a fender gets a little far to the east, and then a whole vehicle got dumped out of line, and it helps us to know whether there's compliance or not, if we need to clean things up. So that was something that Ricky is incorporating in his applications going forward. We've never done it that way before, but this time, I mean, we're knowledgeable of that now, so we need to use it. So we changed the resolutions to include the parcel number. And in this, the next resolution actually, you'll see where we have two parcels that have actually been granted a junkyard permit in the past, and we always treated it as one request, one junkyard. And it is one junkyard, but it happens to be in two parcels of property. Well, there's a difference. The other thing you might run into is the office. And we historically have said a junkyard at, and you give the residence as where the mail is delivered. Well, the mail may be delivered in the office in one location, and the cars aren't necessarily at that location. So there's a business address, but we want the very specific site of the parcel. And that's why you'll see that in here. And in the one after this one, you will see that we've combined two parcels, which really reflects what the applicant has asked for. We did this without the knowledge of the applicant. It was not in their application. But in my mind, we couldn't act on it as it was because it was vague. And in the future, if the applicant wants a license, he'll simply put for both properties, which is what has been granted in the past, okay? Let me pedal backwards again. Resolution number 109, junkyard license renewal for 55 Hammond Lane.
Whereas the town clerk has received an application and fee for a license to operate a junkyard business from Phyllis Pomander, 55 Hammond Lane, parcel number 220.8-8.4. Whereas Steve Limehoff, Code Enforcement Officer, has completed an inspection of the property and the applicant is in compliance. Now therefore be resolved, the town board is hereby receive and place on file said applicant authorizing the town clerk to issue a junkyard license to the aforementioned applicant in compliance with this letter issued by Steve Limehoff, Code Enforcement Officer for the town of Plattsburgh. And it be further resolved that a copy of this resolution be given to the finance manager, town clerk, and the codes department.
Have a motion.
So moved.
Mr. Cashman, second.
Second.
Ms. LaFave, any discussion?
On this one, there was a considerable amount of junk around the front, not within the boundaries. There is a fence, and it's not within the boundaries of that, though, plus there were a few unlicensed cars. And I think you told me that the code enforcement officer will be going around.
All right, Tom and I talked about this a little earlier. There is junk that has nothing to do with the junkyard, that has everything to do with our annual spring cleanup.
Right.
Code enforcement officer is well aware of that and has indicated that will be dealt with, as with any parcel that has too many unlicensed vehicles and trash around the property.
So he'll be out surveying all the neighborhoods in the next few weeks.
To the extent two people can manage 48 square miles.
Yes, so if anyone wants to clean up some beforehand, it would be a good time to do that.
I spoke with the applicant's son this afternoon, and they took 2 dump truck loads of trash out of there. So when he went into the road, everything on the right-hand side, he assured me was all cleaned up.
Okay, if it wasn't there, it was all there yesterday.
Yeah, right, but they worked today, that's what he said when he called me at 3 o'clock.
So he was aware he had some
He was
cleanup.
aware of the, you know, of the findings and stuff.
Well, I hope it's not back again by next week.
No, he said inadvertently during the winter time, because of laziness on the part of he and his brother, that they just stockpiled stuff there instead of removing it, so.
But once notice is issued, the codes department's pretty good about following up and going back. We hadn't had that problem with this property before, so
No,
I don't expect it will be a pattern. Any other discussion? Roll call.
Thomas Wood,
Yes.
Michael Cash,
Yes.
Mike LaFave,
Yes.
Bernie Bassett.
Yes, resolution's carried. Resolution 110, junkyard license renewal for 225 Ruger Street.
Whereas the town clerk has received an application and fees for a license to operate a junkyard business from Ed Champagne at 225 Ruger Street, parcel number 221.9-1-1. Whereas Steve Imhoff, code enforcement officer, has completed an inspection of the junkyard and the applicant is now in compliance. Now therefore be resolved that the town of Plattsburgh Town Board is hereby receive and place on file said application and authorize the town clerk to issue a junkyard license to the aforementioned applicant in compliance with a letter issued by Steve Imhoff, code enforcement officer, to the town of Plattsburgh. And be further resolved that a copy of this resolution be given to the finance manager, town clerk, and codes department.
Have a motion.
So moved.
Mr. Cashman. Second.
Your turn, Tom.
Yeah.
I'll second.
Ms. LaFave, any discussion?
This one is much better than it has been in the past, and there seems to be earthen embankment going pretty much along the road, going back through Betty Blink Road on, back towards the concrete plant. And all I noticed was some large tires in a pile in one section, the rest of it looks like it's being filled in to a good degree.
Any other discussion? Roll call.
Thomas Wood,
Yes.
Michael Cash,
Yes.
Mike LaFave,
Yes.
Bernie Bassett.
Yes, resolution carries. Resolution 111, junkyard license renewal for 271 Ruger Street.
Whereas the town clerk has received an application and fees for a license to operate a junkyard business from Ed Champagne at 271 Ruger Street, parcel number 220.4-30.1, and parcel number 220.4-30.2. And whereas Steve Imhoff, code enforcement officer, has completed his inspection of the junkyard and said applicant is in compliance. Now therefore be resolved that the town board is hereby authorized and place on file said applicant authorization and authorizes the town clerk to issue a junkyard license to the aforementioned applicant in compliance with a letter issued by Steve Imhoff, code enforcement officer of the town of Plattsburgh. And it be further resolved, a copy of this resolution be given to the finance manager, town clerk, and codes department.
Have a motion. Ms. LaFave, second.
Second.
Mr. Cashman, any discussion?
And this one, since it had been just for the first parcel, but he had actually been using the second parcel as well.
We can't even really say that, Tom, because we did it with the address to the applicant at that address, and we were all very conscious, as was the applicant, he was using the entire property for a junkyard. Well, it was 2 parcels. So going forward, and we're starting it tonight, we need to acknowledge the 2 parcels. Otherwise, he'd have to pull things back out of the second one.
Yeah, and
And-
430.2 is the one that goes straight back all the way to the river.
And you want to know, this is a 2009 flyover, this is not the more
Yeah.
recent one,
I know.
because those vehicles are not there and lots changed. But yes, this was sort of a test case when we did the pictometry. We saw there are 2 parcels in there, so we need to, we've cleaned that. It's a bit of a transition. Any other discussion? Roll call.
Thomas Wood,
Yes.
Michael Cashman,
Yes.
Mike LaFave,
Yes.
Bernie Bassett.
Yes, resolution carries. Ricky, you haven't seen Ed to explain what we did
No.
yet to him?
He's still in South Carolina.
I'm sure there'll be no further issues with that. Resolution 112, LWRP Grant Management Consulting Firm.
Whereas the Waterfront Realization in Coastal Areas and Inland Waterways Act offers government the opportunity to participate in the state's coastal management program on a voluntary basis by preparing and adopting a local waterfront revitalization program. And whereas the local waterfront revitalization program consists of the planning documents prepared by the community and a program established to implement the plan to address all issues that affect the community's entire waterfront and most critical issues facing its waterfront. Whereas the LWRP follows a step-by-step process in which the community can advance community planning from a vision to implementing to address landward development, water use that are subject to ever-increasing array and use of conflicting, including conflicts between passive and active types of recreation, between commercial and recreational use, and between all use as well as natural resources of harbors, including increasing in recreational boating and changes in waterfront uses. And whereas, as part of the LWRP, an effective management plan can be used to analysis and resolve these conflicts and issues and address local revitalization issues in a border context, aligning and regional economic development strategies and regional resources, protection and management program. And whereas the grant in the amount of $25,000, including $25,000 of matching funds, has been awarded that will be willing managed by a firm for strategic planning and technical assistance. Whereas members of the LWRP committee have conducted through review of proposals submitted and retained from consulting firms to manage and administer the LWRP grant for the town of Plattsburgh. Mr. Ron Morgan, Planning Department Head, has submitted a letter in support of the section of LaBerge Group. Now therefore be resolved, LaBerge Group of 4 Computer Drive, Albany, New York, 12205, be authorized to prepare and manage the aforesaid grant project and all other plans of the documents that are required to complete the project for a total budget of $50,000. And it be further resolved that after the town attorney has reviewed the contract agreement and upon its approval, the town board hereby authorize the supervisor to enter into the contract for services as indicated. And it be further resolved that a copy of this resolution be forwarded to the LaBerge Group, the Planning Department, Finance Manager, and the Department of State.
Have a motion.
So moved.
Mr. Wood, second.
Second.
Ms. LaFave, any discussion?
I believe this sets us up to be able to get grants to continue the process of the Saranac River Trail and other activities we want to pursue on the lakefront.
Correct. To the extent that this little bit of money will be able to cover that broad topic, you're absolutely right. Without this, you aren't going to get any implementation money. This will be, the necessary preliminary work. This was my first experience working with an REI, which, as compared to an RFP or an RFQ, this was a very, very succinct script. And there was no soliciting consultants to find out what they might do. This was simply identifying consultants who were capable of executing the already determined plan. And believe me, the Department of State has their fingerprints all over this. The review process, they wanted to see every single applicant's proposal, and on and on and on. Very tightly managed by the Department of State. But, as you said, Tom, once you've gone through this process, the next thing would be seeking funds to actually do some implementation. The Sunak River Trail got way ahead of all of us because they had done these preliminary pieces, and then they were able to get some funding for the work we know they've achieved. This also comes on the heels, and I don't really have any specific information at all for you this evening, but we learned recently that we would be able to access some more funding from a large county grant that was awarded a couple of years ago, and be able to apply that to do even more with our local waterfront revitalization. So we're still having some conversations. We're hoping to take that amount of money and fold it into this if it's possible, so we don't have to, because it's much smaller. And that's a grant. There are no matching funds at all. That would enable us to even do more. And some of the target of that would be the Lapeer access to the river that we've long wanted to be able to do some things. This would get rid of some of that preliminary study in the geological and maybe the SHPO issues, etc.
Pier Lane and Morrisonville.
Correct, yeah, yeah. So there's some stuff happening that keeps us in the waterfront arena. The other grant coming our way, and this one also is a little bit of an offshoot from the seminar we had here, if you recall, the local waterfront revitalization seminar. We had a large contingent of local and agency folks here, and we really surfaced our genuine interest in contributing to the extension of that river trail. So that's what this is about, but it's a very, very prescriptive program. There's not a lot of deviation. The selection is making sure you have a company that actually has the equipment and staff to produce the product. That's pretty well already been defined. And they did. They scored out heavily under firm. Any other comments? Roll call.
Thomas Wood,
Yes.
Michael Cashman,
Yes.
Mike LeFave,
Yep.
Bernie Bassett.
Yes, resolution carries. Number 113, request to advertise for sealed bids, base sewer lining 2015.
Whereas the Water and Wastewater Department base sewer district is in need of sewer lining material and installation of said material. And whereas the plans and specifications have been prepared by LaBerge Engineering and Consulting Group entitled Base Sewer Slip Lining 2015. Whereas Scott Stoddard, Water and Wastewater Director, has requested to solicit bids for material and labor to complete the lining. Now therefore be resolved that the town clerk is hereby authorized and directed to advertise for sealed bids for project entitled Base Sewer Lining 2015, for which said bid specifications and non-conclusion documents will be available at the town clerk, and that the said advertisement shall be placed in the Press Republican with bid openings on May 22nd, 2015 at 3 p.m. at the Town Hall Complex, 151 Baker Road, Plattsburgh, New York. And it be further resolved that the Town of Plattsburgh Town Board reserves the right to reject any and all bids offered. And it be further resolved that a copy of this resolution be given to the town clerk, the Director of Water and Wastewater Department, and the Finance
Have a
Manager.
motion.
So moved.
Mr. Cashman, second.
Second.
Mr. Wood, any discussion?
This will be we've been doing this each year a little bit, I think, trying to improve the.
I think this finishes it up.
This is the final.
You had a tour and things today, so I'm sure
We
that,
didn't make it that far, but
no.
yeah,
This is the final?
that's what.
For the
Scott
base
said.
part?
And what we set up for the first 3 years.
Yes.
There's still, I think, still some things to do.
For slip lining in other areas?
I'm not sure, well, yeah, I don't know if it's
Yeah, I
in
don't-
that particular area, but.
Yeah, I think this puts us in good shape with slip lining. You know, if you recall, this is a project we got ahead of schedule a little bit. The second project, part of the slip lining we did, we got in on the first award, which had lower rates, and the contractor was already staged, so he was ready to go. We really got a lot done a little faster and a little less costly than we thought. Monday with the mayor today, I happened to catch, and they were talking about City Hall. And there's something recently in the newspaper. And the rather significant repair costs that are urgently needed on the building, a historic building. And somewhere in there I read or heard the mayor mention how, you know, it's long overdue. And it's so difficult sometimes for boards to allocate money to take care of things that need attention because we have limited funds. And we sort of get by this year, and then you get by another year. And somebody's gonna blink, and there's gonna be some group that sits at the table, and now it's at a point where there aren't any more days to put these things off. You've got to address it. And that's been a concern of mine for a long time with tax cap and all the other issues we're dealing with generic to that. There are certain projects, and we often think of equipment and the visual things you see. We've talked a lot with the water tanks, and that's going to be a big issue before this board before long, et cetera. You've got to maintain the property you have. If you don't, you're going to pay a terrible price later. And I mean, anybody who's been in that building, you know it's a bit sightly. It's kind of unfortunate as you know, representation of our greater Plattsburgh area. So, you know, this is a small example and something we really focused on of all the things, especially water sewer needs to have done. But this is one we've supported. You got the money, we got it done, and that's great. It's important, and you get dividends for it. Anyone have any other thoughts? Meg, anything surfaced today generic to this?
Lots of stuff surfaced today. I've got all my notes here, but nothing really getting to the sewer bill.
If you'd like, at one of our work sessions to, give us all some update of
Yeah, I plan on
what you did, would
putting
be
my
great.
notes
Let me know, and
together.
I'll make sure and put it on the agenda so it gets shared. Roll call.
Thomas Wood,
Yes.
Michael Patch,
Yes.
Mike LaFave,
Yes.
Bernie Bassett.
Yes, resolution carries. That's it on my list. Get everyone home at a decent hour this evening. We get a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Mr. Cashman, do you have a second on that?
Second.
Ms. LaFave, any discussion about that motion? We can get a roll call.
Thomas Wood,
Yes.
Michael Patch,
Yes.
Mike LaFave,
Yes.
Bernie Bassett.
Yes, we will adjourn at 7:35 PM.